they're all trying. They all don't believe that religion, has any place in their lives. It's
So
all,
sorry, I just want to be clear because I haven't read the book. So the central claim is that that children are trying to separate from the religion of their parents as a fundamental drive?
they're trying to separate all things, not just religion. There's sexuality, their all their values and everything. And then at about 30 years of age, all of a sudden they start realizing that they have to be part of the community. They have to join, and they also start realizing that religion is not something that you.
I'm going to ask you at this point to ask your question.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you think that, as your son, he's trying to find his own way? You say. Do you think that at 30 he's going to change and start accepting things that you disagree with?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess I have a kind of problems with the thesis. For example, first of all, I have serious questions about the whole Freudian framework for empirical reasons. But that aside, I mean, that proposition that children are largely driven by a desire to separate from their parents' religion seems to be, I mean, I need more justification for believing that, because prima facie it just seems to be false. The overwhelming predictor of what religion you will follow is the religion of your parents.
I didn't say they all. They're all.
No, but overwhelmingly. So
the brain is changing
Sure.
through the whole process from childhood to teenage to adults.
I accept that, but I guess I don't see. I thought there was a prediction coming out of that theory that there's this drive to separate from the religion of your parents, and that just doesn't seem to.
No, that's only part of.
Okay.
Well,
the idea that the brain is sort of going through these huge changes in plasticity, yeah, I agree with that.
Hormones and
Sure.
values.
And I think, but there's also a tremendous. I mean, I think people are sort of pulled between opposing goals of trying to individuate and participate at all times, and I think it's better to see development as always having those two goals. So when I teach developmental psychology, it's actually, you can see those two goals always the case from infancy all the way through even to adulthood, that you're always struggling between, individuating and participating. So I guess that's why I would take issue with some of the claims you were basing your question on.
I'm still not sure of it, but...
Okay.
We're going to cap the questions at the three individuals who are currently online.
Okay, so I think a lot of this is pretty obvious in a lot of ways, or...
Really? I've worked a long time on this.
No, I'm actually complimenting you. I think you make a good case in being obvious. And some of this is based on things that I think have sort of been... seem to be the case to a lot of people in terms of how things work. But in a way, it seems like it's not this aspect, or even what you're talking about robots or computers being limited in terms of intelligence. But you draw it to spirituality or religion. I'm not talking about religio, but this specifically religion or spirituality.
Sure.
And I'm wondering if you're drawing too fine a point there, because this seems to be a quality, sort of the imprinting of culture on an individual. Mm-hmm. And it seems to me that this is something that goes far beyond belief. Mm-hmm. But even if you're going to say belief, it goes far beyond religion or spiritualism. You can have political beliefs of the same sense of belonging, all these
Sure.
dynamics,
and political and religious things confused, like in Nazism.
Exactly, on all sides.
Yep.
Given the discussion with this previous questioner about, and I agree with you on that too, but given that it seems to me that children are going to be taking this stuff on, that a human being is going to be formed mostly from what their parents and what they get from when they're very young. How could this sort of better future, this is what I'm getting at, how could this sort of better future be achieved? It seems that you're talking about just a better way of indoctrinating, and you may not be personally advocating that, but it sounds like that's in a sense what it would be. We're going to find good ways, more efficient ways of using these processes, and then from them we can get a better way. It's not going to be quite religion. It's not going to maybe be God, or maybe it will be, but it's going to be a better way of maximizing this, achieving maximum flow. But I'm still thinking that free will is sort of left in the dust somewhere. And I'm not saying that I think the ideal should be.
Once again, I'm forced to intrude and ask you to state your question.
Well, does this? Do you? Is it necessary to limit this to religion and?
No, I didn't intend to do that at all. What I was trying to, in fact, like you brought up, I think we can have pseudo-religious ideologies, we can have political movements, we can have, all of these are, this, right, and that's one of the problems. Our culture is one of the few cultures that pulls out this phenomenon and says there's this separate thing, religion, that's separate from art and music and politics and social structures and the way people celebrate marriage and all kinds of things like that. And that is very much a sort of an idiosyncratic thing about our particular culture, and to think that, well, the only way you get that going is through what our culture has done, which is set up institutions of indoctrination. That's kind of ethnocentric, right? Because that's not what has to be the case, right? Because that's just a particular sort of historical accident in the West. So I don't know, do I want people to set up communities and start to practice? Well, yeah, of course, but we do that anyways. We don't think, when you form any, like this, is this an indoctrination? Yes, no. I don't know how to use that term in any way that's going to answer your question the way I think you want it answered, right? Because it's a value-laden term. It sounds bad. Indoctrination is bad, right? And that sounds like you're worried. Well, it is if you're brainwashing people. But if I'm teaching people how to meditate, or if I'm teaching them how to find flow in their work, or if I'm teaching them how to better solve problems, or if I'm teaching them better how to bring mindsight into therapy, or how to bring all of this into improving pedagogy or improving their interpersonal relationships, is that indoctrination? I don't know. That doesn't strike me like the typical use of the word.
Hi there.
Hello.
I generally like where you're going with this, if anything is relevant, but I'm interested in if you have any comment on sort of the social repercussions or fallout of this. In as much as discussing flow, you talked about, I think, artists, musicians, athletes, all of whom experience this, all of whom I have tremendous respect for in certain avenues, none of whom I would want to be making important decisions for me.
Right.
Certainly in, say, nihilistic culture, if you made a bad series of relevance sortings in your head, you probably wind up dead fairly quickly.
Sort of. We've found ways of buffering people.
Yeah, exactly. So I worry about the extent to which people will take this, run with it, and decide, well, we'll leave all the hard stuff to the computers, and we'll do what we're good at, which is making sometimes what will amount to sort of flaky decisions based on what we feel.
Well, let me try and use another example. I want people that aren't flaky. I want wise people. And in the ancient world, we had institutions that did this, right? We had the ancient philosophical schools, Stoicism, Epicureanism, Platonism, Aristotelianism. And these were at one time very strongly supported by the state. So Marcus Aurelius sets up chairs for them when he's emperor of the Roman Empire. And for a while, the Roman Empire was actually governed by Stoic philosophers. Marcus Aurelius comes to mind. And that empire is governed probably, I think you can make a very good historical argument that it's run the best when it was run by people that came out of, institutions that were basically training this. So I'm not sort of, that Andy Warhol takes control of the reins of power or something like that. The model is much more somebody like Marcus Aurelius. Not that we should have emperors, but the intent I'm making. So this doesn't mean that flaky people, he runs the Roman Empire, he runs it during times of crisis, plague, right? Constant war on the frontiers, yet by most historical accounts, and historians are usually really vicious for the emperors, he comes off really, really well.
Do Persinger's experiments have any relevance here? Or?
I don't know. The problem with Persinger's experiments, for those of you